What if I told you the very thing you believe makes you irresistible is the same thing silently pushing people away? Picture this. A man sits at a cafe table, phone in hand, checking it for the third time in 10 minutes. He sent a sweet, thoughtful message earlier today. Hours pass, no reply. His mind spins out of control. Did I say something wrong? Should I send another text? Maybe she didn't see it, or maybe she's losing interest. Meanwhile, across town, another man hasn't even touched his phone all afternoon. He's knee-deep in his work, fully absorbed in the world he's building. When he finally checks his messages later that evening, there are 3 unread texts waiting for him, all from women curious about where he's been. Same world, same dating pool, 2 completely different results. And here's the uncomfortable truth most men refuse to face. The difference isn't in looks, money, or smooth charm. It's something deeper, something primal, something almost no one teaches you about desire. People don't chase what's always available. We've been lied to. Society, movies, and even well-meaning friends tell you attraction is about giving more, showing up more, being more available. But human psychology plays by a different set of rules. The rules of scarcity and value. The harder you chase, the faster they run. The more you hand yourself over without them earning it, the less they feel your worth. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli wasn't writing dating advice columns. He was dissecting the brutal mechanics of power, but hidden in his words was a truth just as relevant to relationships as to politics. Attraction isn't built by what you give, but by what you choose to withhold. Not in a manipulative, cold, or game-playing way, but in a way rooted in self-respect. Because here's the paradox. What is abundant is taken for granted, but what is scarce becomes priceless. Think about the last time you truly wanted something, a dream job, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Remember the way your heart raced, the way your mind couldn't let it go? That burning desire wasn't created by it being handed to you on a silver platter. It was created because it felt rare. Now flip it. Think of the things you were given easily, without effort. How quickly did they fade into the background? That's how desire works. And most men sabotage it without realizing. They give and give and give, not from strength, but from emptiness. You might not notice it in yourself, but women feel it instantly. That silent energy that says, I need you to like me so I can feel okay about myself. It's heavy, it's suffocating, and it doesn't inspire passion. It inspires escape. Machiavelli understood something timeless. People gravitate towards strength and retreat from weakness. They are drawn to those who seem whole and repel from those who seem to need completion. The tragic mistake? Most men give away their power before the first conversation is over. They pedestalize her, value her before she's earned it, and flood her with attention she hasn't had to invest in. And when the gifts come too easily, they lose their shine. It's not about being stingy or cold. It's about protecting the most valuable thing you own, your presence. This is where Machiavelli's first rule of attraction comes in, the art of strategic withdrawal. Power flows toward those who don't need it. The moment you stop chasing, the balance begins to shift. When your life is full, your work, your passions, your friendships, you naturally become less available and, paradoxically, more desirable. Men who effortlessly attract aren't running secret scripts. They simply live lives so compelling that someone new isn't the center of it, but a welcomed addition to it. They don't text every hour, not because they're playing hard to get, but because they're already engaged with things that matter. When they do reach out, it's meaningful, intentional. And that small gap in communication creates something most men never allow to exist: curiosity. And curiosity is the seed from which desire grows. Machiavelli knew it. Psychology confirms it. When someone has to wonder what you're doing, they lean in, they invest, they imagine. And imagination is far more powerful than constant updates. You don't become magnetic by being constantly in someone's face. You become magnetic by living in a way that makes your absence felt. Because here's the truth, you can't fake self-respect. You can't act busy. You either have a life worth protecting, or you don't. And when you do, when you're genuinely fulfilled without needing anyone to complete you, people notice. You stop radiating hunger and start radiating value. And in that moment, the game changes. Imagine walking into a dimly lit room and seeing a half-finished painting on the wall. The brush strokes are bold, the colors intense, but the image is incomplete. Something in you aches to know what the final picture will look like. You lean closer, you speculate, you keep thinking about it long after you've left. That feeling, the hunger to fill in the blanks, is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. And it's the foundation of Machiavelli's second rule of attraction, the power of concealed depth. We are wired to be drawn to mystery. Our brains are problem-solving machines, always seeking to connect dots and close loops. The moment you show everything about yourself, the moment you spill your life story in the first conversation, you kill the puzzle. Yet most men, especially when they like someone, do exactly that. They unload everything at once. Here's my childhood trauma, here are my dreams, here are my fears, here's my whole personality, please like me. It feels honest, it feels like vulnerability, but in reality, it robs the other person of the most intoxicating part of getting to know you, the slow discovery. Think about the most captivating people you've ever met. They weren't the ones who poured everything onto the table in the first hour. They were the ones who let you see just enough to spark curiosity, then revealed more over time, each conversation pulling you deeper into their orbit. Machiavelli, master of influence, understood this instinctively. In politics, he never revealed the full extent of his plans. In personal relationships, the same law applies. Information is power. Not because you're hiding anything sinister, but because controlling when and how much you reveal keeps people engaged. When you hand someone the complete map of who you are too soon, they stop exploring. They think they've figured you out, and your presence fades into the background noise of their life. But when you reveal yourself in layers, when each interaction offers a new piece of the puzzle, you create what psychologists call the curiosity gap. It's that delicious space between what someone knows and what they want to know. That gap keeps you living rent-free in their mind. And here's the key. Mystery isn't about secrecy. Secrecy is hiding things that should be shared. Mystery is simply not serving the whole meal at once. It's offering a taste, then letting them earn the rest. The man who masters concealed depth doesn't rush to tell every story. He doesn't narrate every past relationship or every inner thought. Instead, he lets these details surface naturally as the connection deepens. When you do this, you're not being manipulative. You're respecting the natural rhythm of human bonding. True intimacy takes time. Real connection is built, not dumped. And there's another layer to this. Mystery signals abundance. When you don't feel the need to overshare to keep someone interested, it tells them you believe you are worth sticking around for. It's a quiet, unspoken confidence. This is why people who are mysterious without being distant are so magnetic. They create a world you want to step into, but they don't throw open the gates all at once. Because here's the paradox. The less someone knows, the more they want to know. The more they want to know, the more they invest. And the more they invest, the more they value what they discover. Machiavelli would have put it simply, never give the entire game away in the first move. The man who understands this isn't rushing to prove himself. He knows that every unanswered question about him is a thread that keeps pulling someone closer. He becomes, in their mind, not just a person, but an unfolding story. And the human brain will chase an unfinished story far longer than it will cling to a completed one. A king who can't rule himself can't rule his kingdom. Machiavelli wrote those words for princes and politicians, but they cut just as deep in the realm of human relationships. Because here's the truth. The most magnetic man in any room is not the loudest, the richest, or even the most charming. It's the man who cannot be shaken. Watch how most men respond when reality doesn't match their expectations. She takes an hour longer than usual to reply to a text, and suddenly he's pacing the floor, dissecting every word of their last conversation. She cancels dinner plans, and instantly he's questioning if she's losing interest. She mentions another man in passing, and jealousy burns through him like gasoline on dry grass. These reactions feel natural, but they're lethal. Because in that moment, you're no longer leading your life. You're being led by your emotions, and nothing kills attraction faster than a man who is emotionally unstable. Here's why. Whether she's aware of it or not, every woman is scanning for something deeper than looks or wit. She's scanning for stability, a signal that says, I can handle life's storms without collapsing. The man without emotional sovereignty sends the opposite message. I crumble under pressure. And here's the paradox. She might not consciously think, this man is unstable, but her instincts will register it instantly. It will feel like weight she doesn't want to carry. Emotional sovereignty is not about being cold. It's not about hiding feelings behind a stone wall. It's about being unshakable. It's about standing in the center of your own mind and saying, "My inner world is mine to govern. No one else gets to control it." The emotionally sovereign man doesn't spiral because of a delayed text. He doesn't rage when plans change. He doesn't crumble when tested. He feels, yes, but he doesn't let feelings steer the ship. Instead, he responds instead of reacts. He adapts without drama. He remains steady even when the situation is uncertain. Machiavelli knew that the man whose emotions are predictable is easy to manipulate. Press the right button, and you can steer him anywhere. But the man who can't be easily provoked, the man who chooses his reactions carefully, that man holds the real power. In attraction, this is pure gold, because emotional sovereignty communicates strength without aggression and confidence without arrogance. It tells her, "I value your presence, but I do not require it to remain whole." And here's the irony. When you don't need her approval becomes more valuable when it's given. Most men approach relationships as if the woman is the weather, sunny one moment, stormy the next, and they just react accordingly. The sovereign man is the mountain, unshaken by passing storms, grounded no matter what the skies bring. He doesn't lose himself to every emotional wave. He doesn't hand over the keys to his peace. And because of that, his presence feels like security, and security in a world full of chaos is deeply attractive. This is why emotional sovereignty is not just a skill, it's a throne. And when you sit on it, you stop chasing, stop convincing, stop performing, and start leading. Respect is never given. It's either commanded or it's lost. Most men think winning someone over is about saying yes to everything, bending in every direction, and being endlessly accommodating. They believe that by never disagreeing, never setting limits, never holding their ground, they're proving how good they are. But what they're actually proving is that they can be walked over. Here's a truth most men avoid facing. When you accept behavior that you don't respect, you're broadcasting to the world that you don't respect yourself. And if you don't respect yourself, why should anyone else? Machiavelli observed that rulers who failed to enforce their laws didn't lose their kingdoms because of foreign invaders. They lost them because their own people stopped taking them seriously. The same principle plays out in relationships every single day. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're standards that keep you intact. They're the invisible lines that say, "This is how I treat myself, and this is how I expect to be treated in return." A woman can sense instantly whether a man has boundaries. It's in the way he holds eye contact, the way he speaks without over-explaining himself, the way he reacts when someone crosses the line. Without boundaries, every interaction becomes a negotiation, and she will, consciously or unconsciously, test you. Not because she's malicious, but because all humans test the structures around them to understand how strong they are. Push a little here, push a little there, see if the line holds. If it doesn't, attraction erodes, respect dissolves. You become another man who talks about his standards, but folds under pressure. But when you do have clear, unshakable boundaries, something shifts. She knows exactly where the line is. There's no confusion, no constant testing. And this, paradoxically, creates safety. Because deep down, a self-respecting man is predictable in the best possible way. He won't tolerate disrespect today, tomorrow, or next year. Not because he's rigid, but because his self-worth isn't negotiable. The man with boundaries doesn't explode in anger when someone crosses them. He doesn't try to guilt trip or plead for better treatment. He simply acts. If the behavior continues, he removes himself, quietly, firmly, permanently if needed. And here's the magnetic part. Boundaries don't push away the right people. They draw them closer. A woman who respects herself wants to be with a man who respects himself. She's not interested in a doormat. She's interested in a partner. And when she feels that you won't sacrifice your dignity just to keep her around, she realizes something important. You value yourself more than you value her approval. That's when the dynamic changes. You're no longer chasing respect. You're commanding it. And in the same way gravity pulls planets into orbit, a man with unshakable boundaries becomes a force people naturally revolve around. Because when you protect your own worth, you don't just hold on to power. You become the kind of man who is power. A man who cannot rule his own life will always end up ruled by someone else. This is Machiavelli's deepest, most dangerous truth about power and attraction, and it's the one that most men will never fully grasp. Because here's the reality. Most men step into relationships from a place of emptiness. They're searching for someone to complete them, to fill the gaps in their life, to make them feel whole. But emptiness cannot attract fullness. It can only consume it. The sovereign man is different. He doesn't look for someone to build his world. He builds it himself. He has work that drives him, a mission that fuels him, habits and passions that make his days worth living. When a woman enters his life, she isn't stepping into a barren field. She's stepping into a flourishing kingdom. She's not the architect. She's the guest of honor. And here's the key. Her presence doesn't complete him. It enriches him. It's the difference between needing and choosing. Need says, I can't be happy without you. Choice says, I'm already happy. And I want to share that with you. Which do you think is more attractive? Sovereignty means your mission doesn't crumble the moment someone new walks in. If you have a business to build, you build it. If you have a gym session planned, you go. If your morning ritual fuels you, it doesn't get tossed aside because she called late the night before. This isn't about inflexibility. It's about value. Your time is valuable because it's already invested in things that matter. So when you do give someone your time, it carries weight. Contrast that with the man who rearranges his entire life around her schedule. The man who abandons his goals, cancels his plans, and constantly sacrifices his own rhythm just to keep her happy. It feels romantic to him, but to her, it's a silent signal. My own mission was never that important, and here's the paradox. The man who orbits around her life becomes forgettable. The man who invites her into his life, into his rhythm, into his mission, becomes unforgettable. Because she's not his entire world. She's part of a world worth inhabiting. Machiavelli understood the psychology behind this. True power comes from needing nothing. When you don't require someone's approval, it becomes infinitely more valuable when they give it. When you don't require someone's presence to feel complete, their presence becomes a gift, not a lifeline. This is why sovereignty is magnetic. It's rare. And rarity, as Machiavelli knew, is the root of all value. Most men bend themselves into shapes they think women will like. They shapeshift their personality, change their opinions, adjust their schedule, trying to fit into her life. But the sovereign man never does this. He is the mountain, not the wind. He doesn't resist connection. He simply refuses to abandon his kingdom for it. And because he stands firm, because he lives a life of meaning and direction, he draws people to him like a fortress lit against the night. This is the heart of all 5 rules. Desire is not created by giving more. It's created by being more. The man who stops chasing becomes worth chasing. The man who holds mystery becomes worth discovering. The man who rules his emotions becomes worth respecting. The man who sets boundaries becomes worth valuing. The man who governs himself becomes worth joining. These aren't tricks. They aren't performances. They're qualities you must become. Because when you embody them, you stop looking for someone to fill your emptiness. You start looking for someone worthy of your abundance. And that shift, from need to choice, from emptiness to fullness, changes everything. The most attractive man is not the one who needs love most. It's the one who needs it least, but still chooses to give it. Not from desperation, not from loneliness, but from the overflowing abundance of a man who is already whole. And that wholeness is impossible to resist.